The rumors are true. I'm 19 weeks pregnant. It does not feel real, but I'm feeling good now that I'm out of my first trimester. And next week we find out the gender, and at some point here, I guess I'll be putting together a nursery. So that's crazy. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. As fun as baby stuff is, welcome back to Armchair Rearranging, where you send in pictures of your spaces and I give you design advice for free. Today we're here to diagnose the problems of two rooms that two lovely followers sent in. And it's not that there's anything wrong with these rooms per se, it's just that to the people who live in them, they feel off, but they're having a hard time identifying what the issue is. The first space we're looking at belongs to Sierra, who lives in Florida, and she is trying to marry beachy, laid-back, coastal vibes with mid-century. Let me show you another view of the living room. Here's another side of the living room, and we're working with great bones here. I would say in this room, the beachy elements are definitely there in the white painted paneling, in the bookshelves, in the big windows, in the white curtains, but I'm not getting much of a mid-century vibe. And let me tell you why. There are a lot of trendy pieces in this room, from the boucle chairs to the checkerboard blanket to a gray rug to the gray couch. And so to add that mid-century touch, we need to add in some texture and some earthiness to ground everything. So let's start with this side of the room. The bookshelves being so minimally decorated is skewing more towards boho than mid-century eclectic lived in. I would fill the bookshelves, fill them with more books, fill them with lamps. You've heard me say this once, you've heard me say this a million times. Another idea is to add some contrast, to paint the back side of the bookshelves, or even add in some wallpaper, like maybe some grass cloth. That's a great mid-century touch. And that's gonna add some beachy texture, but also add some contrast to these shelves. The next thing I would do is add some warmth to the space, starting with the rug. So if it's in the budget, I would swap out this gray rug for a big jute rug, or something that is kind of along that color scheme. If swapping a big rug is not in the budget, you could also layer in a smaller rug on top of that big gray one to add some contrast and texture and warmth. Next thing I would do is add some more color. So that gray couch is really sucking all the color from the room. If it's an option to replace that for something lighter, I would go for it, but if not, I totally get it. Couches are expensive. So an easy solution would be to add color in the form of like throw pillows, throw blankets, switch out the throw pillows that are on the boucle chairs, and then I would tie in that same color on the sofa. But also swap the ceiling fan for something with wooden fan blades. I'm guessing because you live in Florida, you live in a beachy climate, you probably want the air circulation that comes from the fan. So I've linked a few options in my Amazon storefront, which is in my link in bio. And then last but not least, I would swap out the coffee table. I'm just personally not a fan of glass coffee tables. I don't think that they really add to the space. They're just like floating there. So I would go for something in warm wood, something low to the ground to pull in that mid-century vibe. Here, your living room is beautiful. Can't wait to see what you do with it. The next room we're looking at is Caitlin's dining room, and she just told me she needs help with it. I think the problem is there's no focal point in here, and so the room lacks cohesion. There's a lot going on in terms of this farmhousey dining table. There are a lot of small pieces of furniture. There's no art on the walls. So I would consider swapping the dining table out for something with a darker wood tone, something that's going to feel a little bit more sophisticated and less farmhouse. Then I would add a reddish toned big area rug, something that's going to complement the blues in the space and the white. I think also something in like the brown jute tones could be nice too. Then I would consolidate all of those little hutches for one big unit. If you're handy, you could do like a big built-in on the back wall. That would be amazing. But also I think you could do something that's long and low along that back wall where you can fit all the storage that you need, but maybe even something that's white so that kind of blends in with the wainscoting. And then from there, it just needs some decor. So it needs a big piece of art back there or a nice gallery wall. I would swap out those blinds for some more textured Roman shades. And then I would add some curtains. And for curtains, there are a couple different options here. You could go classic white sheer. You could go with a nice like velvet blue curtain to add a more moody luxe feel. You could even go with like a plaid or a gingham. Could be a fun little cottagey touch. I've linked some options also in my Amazon storefront if you are looking for some ideas. I think if Caitlin wanted to go one step further, I would paint the ceiling the same color as the walls. I think that would add a nice moody feel. So if you also have a room that feels like it's kind of off, but you don't even know what the problem is, think about first what your ultimate goal for the room is. Think about how you want it to function and think about the vibe that you want it to have. Then go to a place like Pinterest and search that exact vibe, get as specific as you can, and then do some real analysis and think about where you are and where you want to be. And for example, in Sierra's place, she was wanting it to feel more mid-century. Well, how do you make it feel more mid-century? You add in more earthy tones, you add in more wood, you add in more texture. Or that you look at images online and then translate that to your own space. You can kind of get a sense of what's needed. It just requires stepping outside the box a little bit. Hopefully that was helpful. You're welcome to send in your own spaces. I get a lot of submissions and I can't get to everybody, unfortunately, because this is not my full-time gig. Maybe it will be someday. But feel free to email me at carlottacisternas@gmail.com and I will try to take a look and see if I have any ideas. Have a beautiful day.